The call that never disconnected. I worked the night shift at a 911 dispatch center in northern Arizona. If you've never done that job, let me explain something first. 911 operators don't hear screams all night. Most calls are boring. Noise complaints, drunk drivers pulled over already, someone locked out of their car at Walmart. Real emergencies are rare. And the really bad ones? They usually end quickly. This story isn't about screams, it's about silence. If you believe some calls were never meant to be answered, like this video and subscribe to America's Horror Tape. Part 1. The Night Shift. I was 27 when this happened. Divorced, no kids, no pets. Night shift paid better, and I didn't sleep well anyway. Our dispatch center handled 3 towns and miles of empty desert highway between them. Population barely crossed 20,000. After midnight, the world basically shut down. The building itself was old, concrete walls, no windows in the dispatch room, fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly, like insects trapped behind glass. There were 6 desks. On a good night, 3 operators worked. That night, just me and Marlene. Marlene had been dispatching longer than I'd been alive. Late 50s, smoked too much, swore like a sailor. She called the night shift the graveyard for a reason. At 2:07 a.m., she went on break. I remember the exact time because the call log freezes for a second whenever someone logs out. The room got quieter after that. Too quiet. Part 2. Normal calls. The first few calls were nothing. 2:11 a.m., a guy reporting fireworks. 2:19 a.m., a woman worried her neighbor's porch light meant a break-in. 2:34 a.m., drunk man who dialed by accident and refused to hang up. Routine. My voice stayed calm, neutral. That's how we're trained. 911, what is the address of your emergency? Say it the same way every time. Never rush, never panic. At 2:48 a.m., the line rang again. Caller ID showed unknown. That happens sometimes. Burner phones, bad signal. I clicked accept. 911, what is the address of your emergency? No response. Just breathing. Not heavy, not panicked. Measured. Like someone listening to me breathe back. I waited 2 seconds. Sir or ma'am, can you hear me? The breathing stopped. Then a voice came through. Quiet, male, flat. I think someone is in my house. I straightened in my chair. Okay, sir, I can help you. What's your address? There was a pause. Then he said an address. It was in Pine Ridge. I recognized it immediately because Pine Ridge was abandoned. The town had been cleared after a mine collapse decades ago. No utilities, no residents, no registered structures. I checked the database. No address existed under that number. Sir, I said carefully, can you repeat the address? He repeated it. Same numbers, same street name. His voice never changed. I tried again. Are you inside the residence right now? Yes. Is the person inside with you? Another pause. I don't know. My fingers hovered over the dispatch keys. Protocol says, in doubt, send. I flagged the call and radioed the nearest deputy. He was 23 minutes out. Sir, I said, help is on the way. I need you to stay on the line with me. Silence. Then, I can hear you typing. My hands froze. That's okay. I'm just getting help to you. I can hear the clicking, he repeated, and the buzzing. I glanced up at the lights. Buzzing. How many people are in the room with you? He asked. My mouth went dry. I'm here to focus on you, sir. Another pause. Then he whispered, they can hear you too. The line went dead. Part 4. No record. I stared at the screen. The call log refreshed. No record, no duration, no caller trace, nothing, like it never existed. That shouldn't happen. Even dropped calls leave metadata. I checked the system again. Still nothing. At 3:01 a.m., Marlene walked back in, coffee in hand. "You look like you saw a ghost," she said. I told her about the call. She frowned. "Probably a prank. Pine Ridge isn't a real address." She paused. "How do you know about Pine Ridge?" "I grew up here." Marlene didn't smile. "Dispatch rule," she said. "Never assume you know the caller better than they know themselves." Then she added quietly, "Those calls happen sometimes." I opened my mouth to ask what she meant. The phone rang again. Part 5, the same voice. "Unknown." I accepted. 911, what is the address of your emergency?" "I told you already." Same voice, same tone. My stomach dropped. "Sir, your previous call disconnected. I need you to confirm your address." I didn't disconnect. I pulled up the map again. "Sir, are you still in Pine Ridge?" "Yes." "Is the intruder still inside the house?" "I think he's closer now." A faint sound came through the line, a creak, like floorboards under weight. "Sir, can you lock yourself in a room?" "I don't have doors anymore." I swallowed. "What do you mean by that?" "I hear breathing behind the walls," he said, "but it isn't mine." The system glitched. The audio warped. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. "You moved your chair." I hadn't realized I did. Marlene stared at me from across the room. I mouthed, "He hears me." She shook her head violently and cut her eyes toward the disconnect button. I didn't press it. "Sir," I said, forcing calm, "how long have you been in the house?" Another pause. "Since before it was empty." The line filled with static. Then, "I can hear her coming back into the room with you." Marlene dropped her coffee. The line went dead. Part 6, the file that should not exist. Marlene locked the console. "Enough," she said. "You don't engage with that." "What was that?" I asked. She hesitated. Then she pulled up an old file. No date, no audio, just a title, "Untraceable Night Calls." Dozens of entries, same patterns, same phrases, different operators. One note stood out. "Caller demonstrates awareness of dispatch environment. Terminate immediately." My chest tightened. "How many times has this happened?" Marlene leaned back. "Since before digital systems." "Does anyone know who it is?" She looked at the ceiling. "No." The phone rang again. "Unknown." Marlene reached for the disconnect. The call connected on its own. The voice came through both our headsets. "I don't like when you ignore me." Part 7, the call from inside. The lights flickered, not off, just dimmer. "I told you not to call again," Marlene said, voice shaking for the first time. "You don't control the line," the voice replied. "Sir," I said, "what do you want?" There was a smile in his voice. "I want you to listen." A sound came through the phone, not static, footsteps, heavy, close, then a whisper. Not from the caller, from somewhere else in the room, behind us. Marlene stood up so fast her chair tipped over. The whisper said, "Operator." The line disconnected. Every screen went black. Emergency power kicked in. Red lights. Silence. Except breathing. Not in the headset. In the room. Part 8, after the shift. Backup arrived. They found nothing. No intruders. No system faults logged. No record of the calls. Marlene resigned 2 days later. She never told anyone why. I stayed. I needed the money. For weeks, nothing happened. Then, one night at 2:07 a.m., Marlene's old desk light flickered on. The phone rang. Unknown. I didn't answer. The voicemail system triggered. A message recorded itself. When I played it back, this is what it said. "I told you I don't have doors anymore." Followed by typing sounds. My typing. Ending. I still work night shift. The calls still come. And sometimes, when the line is quiet, I can hear breathing, waiting for me to speak first. If this story stayed with you longer than it should, subscribe to America's Horror Tape. More calls are still waiting. The Operator Who Answered Too Late. Part 1. Graveyard Hours. I worked dispatch in a county most Americans have never heard of. One hospital, 3 deputies on patrol, hundreds of miles of nothing. Night shift officially started at midnight, but the real graveyard hours were between 3 and 5 a.m. That's when the brain gets slow. That's when reality feels thin. There were rules. Never assume, never rush, never fill silence. Silence, they told us, makes people talk. That night, silence did something else. It listened. The first call. At 3:11 a.m., the phone rang. Caller ID, restricted. Normal. 911, what's the location of your emergency? A child answered, breathing fast, too fast. "I'm not supposed to call," he whispered. My spine went cold instantly. "Okay, sweetheart, you did the right thing. Where are you right now?" Silence. Then, "I think my mom forgot me." Training kicked in. "How old are you?" "I don't know," he said. "She never tells me." Red flag. "What's your name?" Pause. Evan." "Evan, are you alone in the house?" "I hear someone walking." I typed fast, heart pounding. "Evan, listen to me. I need you to tell me where you are." "I don't think it's a house," he said. "That sentence didn't belong to a child." "What do you mean?" "The walls sound empty." A dull thump echoed through the phone. Not loud, close. "Evan," I said carefully, "is anyone with you right now?" "Yes." My throat tightened. "Who?" "You." The disconnect that didn't happen. The line cut, or at least it should have, but my headset didn't go quiet. There was still audio, breathing, adult breathing, slow, controlled. Then a man spoke. "You should have hung up." I froze. "Sir, you were disconnected." "No," he said calmly. "I was listening." I tried to trace the call. The system returned an error I'd never seen before. Origin, unavailable. "Sir, identify yourself," I said. A pause. "I work nights too." Something scraped on the other end, metal on concrete. "Where are you calling from?" I asked. Another pause. "From where you send them." The line went dead. This time for real. The supervisor warning. I flagged the call. Protocol required supervisor review for child-involved disconnections. My supervisor, Dan, walked in half asleep. I explained everything. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he didn't look surprised. "That number again?" he asked. "You recognize it?" He hesitated. Then he said something I wasn't supposed to hear. "We don't escalate those calls." "What?" Dan leaned closer. "If it comes back, you transfer it to me immediately." "Why?" "Because the last operator who stayed on the line didn't finish their shift." That was all he said. The phone rang again. The second voice. Restricted. I didn't answer. Dan did. His face drained of color within seconds. "Yes, I understand," he said quietly. He looked straight at me, then hung up. "We're switching consoles," he said. "Why?" "Because it knows your voice now." that night didn't end there. It didn't even start yet, because some emergency calls don't come from people in danger. They come from places that don't want to be empty anymore. Part 2. The calls that knew too much. The new console. Dan moved me to the far left station. That desk was never used unless we were understaffed or training someone new. The chair wobbled. The headset smelled faintly like dust and old plastic. "Don't deviate from script," Dan said. "If it calls again, you read the opening line and transfer. Nothing else." "What about the kid?" I asked. Dan didn't answer. He walked back into the supervisor's office and shut the door. Locked it. That's when I noticed something strange. The clock on the wall had stopped. 3:29 a.m. Every other system was still running, but time itself felt paused. The third call, a woman screaming. 3:31 a.m., even though the clock hadn't moved. The phone rang. Caller ID, dash. No numbers, no letters, just a dash. I answered. 911, what is the location of your emergency? A woman screamed, raw, uncontrolled, the kind of scream that rips the air out of your lungs. "He's in the room," she cried. "He's not supposed to be here." "Ma'am, I need your address," I said, adrenaline flooding in. "I don't know where I am." Something slammed on her end. A door? A wall? "Ma'am, listen to me. Are you in danger right now?" "Yes, he keeps standing closer every time I blink." I typed frantically. "What does he look like?" Silence. Then, very softly, "He looks like you." My fingers froze above the keyboard. "What do you mean?" She began to sob. "He's wearing your voice." The line filled with static. Then a calm male voice cut through it. "You're asking the wrong questions again." The scream stopped instantly, like someone flipped a switch. The transfer that failed. I hit transfer, Dan's extension. The system rejected it. Transfer denied. That had never happened before. "Sir," I said, trying to sound firm, "this line is being monitored." "I know. That's why I waited." "Waited for what?" "For you," he continued. "You're slower than the others." My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Why are you calling?" I asked. A pause. "I don't call," he said. "I answer." A low sound came through the headset, not breathing, movement, like someone pacing a small room. "You hear that?" he asked. "That's the space between them." "Between who?" "Between the calls." The line disconnected. Every screen flickered again. The clock ticked forward. 3:30 a.m. The file room. Dan finally came out. His face was pale. "You broke protocol," he said. "The transfer failed." "That's because you're not supposed to pass it on anymore," he replied. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. Then he said something that made my stomach sink. "It doesn't like being handed off." I stared at him. "How many operators have dealt with this?" Dan rubbed his eyes. "Enough that we stopped keeping names." He led me down a hallway I'd never been down before, past the break room, past the training office, to a locked door marked Archive. Inside were shelves of old physical files, paper records, cassette tapes. This started before digital dispatch, before caller ID. He pulled one tape, labeled in red ink, Night Voice, 1987. We played it. A woman's voice came through the speaker, young, nervous. 911, what's your emergency?" Then silence. Then a man's voice, calm, identical to the one I'd heard. "You shouldn't have answered." The pattern. File after file told the same story. Different decades, different operators, same progression. Normal calls, anomalous call, escalation, awareness, Then one final note in every file, operator removed from active duty. I looked up. Removed how? Dan didn't answer. At that exact moment, the phone rang. In the archive room. There wasn't even a phone down there. The ringing came from the tape player. The call from the archive. The tape began recording on its own. The man's voice filled the room. You weren't supposed to find this part. Dan backed away. I couldn't move. You want to know what we are? The voice asked. A sound followed. Not static, not breathing. Many breaths, layered, overlapping. We're the calls that never got answered, he said. The ones that rang into empty rooms. The tape hissed louder. You sit between worlds, he continued, and every night you choose who gets through. The light in the archive flickered, and tonight, the voice whispered, you stayed on the line too long. The tape snapped. Silence. When we went back upstairs, every console was active. Every phone was ringing at the same time. The first simultaneous call. One screen unmuted itself. A man was crying. I'm stuck in my car, he said. There's no road anymore. I hadn't touched anything. Sir, I said instinctively, what's your location? I drove until the GPS stopped talking, he said, and then I saw lights. My stomach dropped. Dispatch training teaches you something important. If a caller mentions lights in a place that shouldn't have them, you slow everything down. What kind of lights? I asked. A pause. Fluorescent, he said. The room's lights flickered in response. I can see desks, the man continued, and someone sitting at one of them. Dan shook his head. Hang up, he mouthed. The man on the line inhaled sharply. He just told you to hang up. The second call. No voice. Another line opened. No voice, just typing. On-screen text appeared. Why do you get to go home and we don't? I hadn't enabled chat transcription. No one had. My fingers trembled. Dan stepped backward, bumping into a desk. The lights dimmed further. Do you know how long a phone can ring before it stops being a call? The voice continued. When a call isn't answered, it doesn't disappear, he said. It waits. A new audio channel opened. A woman spoke, softly. I tried calling 3 times, she said, but you were busy. I recognized her voice. She was the screaming woman from earlier. You logged me as a disconnect. My screen updated. Status unresolved. I died waiting, she said calmly. The man's voice returned. And now, he said, we get to practice. The switch. Every console went dark, except mine. A single prompt appeared. Select priority. Below it, child alone, medical unknown, open line, officer needs assistance. Dan stared at the screen. Don't, he whispered. That's not how it works. The voice spoke gently. It is tonight. I realized then this wasn't a system malfunction. It was a test, a terrible one. One call lit up brighter than the rest. Child alone. I clicked it. The others dimmed instantly. Screams erupted from the speakers, dozens, layered, overlapping. Dan dropped to his knees, covering his ears. The child's voice came through my headset. Did I win? The boy asked. No, I whispered. You survived. The line went silent. The other calls vanished, one by one, except one. The last call. Unknown. I didn't answer. It answered me. You learn fast, too fast. What do you want? I asked. The light steadied. The room felt smaller. I want you to understand something. he said. "This job doesn't end when the shift does." I swallowed. "What are you?" A pause. Then, "We're the backlog." The word echoed strangely. All the calls that never made it through, the ones that rang into silence. A soft click, like a headset being set down. You sit between the living and the unheard, and every night you make choices. My screen refreshed. A new status appeared under my name. Operator, active. But beneath it, in smaller text, line open. The morning that never felt real. Backup arrived at 6 a.m., day shift. They found Dan unconscious. They found me still seated, headset on, connected. There were no records of the night, no surge, no system errors, no archive access logs, just one anomaly. My console had logged 100% call resolution. No operator in the county had ever had that. Dan never returned. HR said he opted out. No forwarding address, no goodbye. The ending. I still work nights. Different building, different county, same hours. Sometimes, just before dawn, my headset clicks on by itself. No ringing, no alert, just a line opening and a calm voice waiting. Not asking for help, waiting for me to decide who gets heard and who keeps ringing.